Hello everyone. In this session we'll go through the topic standards for EVs in India. As we have already learned that each and every product needs to be verified and validated before launching it into the market. Just like that, electric vehicles in India also need to be verified and validated. We will see bunch of rules and regulations with their exact standard codes, so let's proceed. The first we see in the slide is introduction to the regulatory bodies. Now standards followed for EV in India are designed by regulatory bodies. These are the following government bodies responsible for deciding standards and codes for EVs in India. The first is Ministry of Shipping, Road Transport and Highways. Now, Ministry of Shipping, Road Transport and Highways is the nodal ministry for motor vehicle regulations in India. Motor Vehicle Act in 1988 and Central Motor Vehicle Rules, that is also known as CMVR in 1989, are the principal instruments governing motor vehicles in the country. Now, what is CMVR? CMVR is Central Motor Vehicle Rules. Indian CMVR regulations have number of special regulations for battery operated vehicle. According to different vehicle types, additional electric vehicle regulations are required to be tested and certified in whole vehicle type certification process. Since we know from the previous session, the Indian government encourages the development of electric vehicles in India. Subsidizes the technical research, manufacturing, development, sales and activities of electric hybrid vehicles releases, that is FAME India Phase 2 scheme for faster adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicles on March 8, 2019. Now in the next slide we can see the Union Minister of Road Transport and Highways, Shipping and Water Resources, Shri Nitin Gadkari, inaugurating the 2 electric vehicles charging point, the fast and slow charging, at Niti Aayog premises in New Delhi. This was around February 2018. Now we move on to the next topic, that is automotive industry standards and their functions. Now CMVR is assisted by another committee called as Automobile Industry Standards Committee, that is also known as AISC, having members from various stakeholders in drafting the technical standards related to the safety. The major functions of this committee are as follows: preparation of new standards for automotive items related to safety, to review and recommend amendments to the existing standards, recommending adoption of such standards to CMVR Technical Standing Committee, and recommended commissioning of testing facilities at appropriate stages, recommending the necessary funding of such facilities to the CMVR Technical Standing Committee, and there are more. Like advising CMVR Technical Standing Committee for any other issues. Now AISC submits the draft of safety standards in the form of recommendation to CMVR for final approval. The CMVR looks into the recommendation of AISC and either approves or sends the recommendations to the AIC for amendments. After approval, CMVR submits the final proposal to the ministry, takes the final decision for incorporation of the recommendations in CMVR. The automotive industry standards are published by ARAI on behalf of AISC. From the next slide, that is standards for EV in electric vehicle, we can start seeing the different standard codes used for validating the electric vehicle. First we start with the electric vehicle on the whole, that is covering the standards of AIS 038, that is requirements for construction and functional safety, 039 for electrical energy consumption, 040 methods for measuring the range, which is very useful when we use electric vehicle, 048 for battery safety standards. This we'll see in elaboration in the next slide. In this slide we see the traction battery standards. The main standard code used here is 048. Now what does 048 do? 048 tells us the battery safety standards and regulations. It helps us from the prevention of heating up the neighboring cells within a module. One thing that we should know about battery safety standards and regulations are that the battery pack is tested in abusive condition. In this situation, the overcharging, short circuiting, physical deformation in a vehicle crash, all are considered. In many cases, it can lead to the heating of neighboring cells that we seen in the second second point within a module, which if sufficient heat is generated can lead to a chain reaction and propagation, and in the worst case scenario develop fire into the explosion. Now the third point is that various tests are required, like mechanical shock test, drop test, vibration test, penetration test, immersion test, crush or the crash test, short circuit that we have already seen, overcharge test, thermal stability test, and thermal shock test. These all need to be performed to validate AIS 048 standard code. Moving on to the next, we have standard codes for EV chargers. Now EV chargers standard codes are AIS 138, that is divided into two parts. Part 1 is AC conductive charging, that is a slow charging, whereas in the part 2 we have DC conductive charging. There is also another reference that we have taken is IS 17017, that is for Bharat EV charger. In that we have different code, that is AC 001, which can deliver maximum to 15 ampere charging current at 3.3 kilowatt power, whereas we have a DC, which is a faster charge compared to AC charging, can deliver maximum 200 ampere charging current at 15 kilowatt power. Here in the next slide we can see the difference between AC and DC in a tabular form. Next we move on to hybrid vehicle standard codes. Let me tell you another thing, that most of the Indian standards that is made as AIS has been referenced from European standards, that will let you know in this slide. First we start with AIS 102, that is part 1, CMVR type approval for hybrid electric vehicles with gross vehicle weight not more than 3500 kg. Whereas in the second point we can see type of approval for hybrid vehicle for M and N category with weight more than 3500 kg. Here M and N are the categories in which M is the passenger vehicle and N is the vehicle used for commercial vehicle used for goods, transportation of goods and parcels, anything. Now these both have been referenced from European standards ECR 100, 101, 83, 85. So these are the European standards that India has reference to. Now coming on to the next slide, that is retrofitment. Now India uses AIS 123 part 1 that allows approval of a hybrid electric vehicle system intended for retrofitment on vehicles of M and N category, that is passenger and goods category, having a gross vehicle weight of equal to or less than 3500 kg. Whereas in the second part it says retrofitment on vehicle of M&N category having gross vehicle weight of more than 3500 kgs. Whereas in the part 3, the CMVR type approval for electric propulsion kit intended for conversion of vehicles for pure electric operation. Here we can see that the two pictures shows how the conventional ICE engine has been retrofitted with typical modern battery electric vehicle. Now we move on to the next slide, that is having standards for EV that is below 250 watt and its EV certification. Now GSR 589 is a code which allows battery operated vehicle with following specifications, which is not allowed as motor vehicles and has exempted from CMVR rules. The first parameter is that 30-minute power of motor is less than 250 watts, and the second is vehicle maximum speed should be no more than 25 km per hour. Anyhow, the regulatory bodies verify these two parameters as well, as they need to be verified for the above conditions as well as the below conditions. The below conditions are white reflectors on the front side, red reflectors on the rear side, brakes, and weight of the vehicle without the battery should be less than 60 kg. To sum up the topic, we have gone through the codes and standard for EVs in every category. I will be covering the standards maintained by regulatory bodies for testing equipment and facilities in the next session. That's all for this session. Thank you.